Welcome back to my channel, and today we are gonna make this. So how did we do this today? Well, a little bit of ingenuity, a lot of YouTube content, and some cheap materials. We popped off down to the shops, got ourselves some electrical conduit, got ourselves two thicknesses, a 32 and a 25mm. Then we popped off to the stationers and I found this black stuff. I don't know what it's called, no idea. It feels plasticky, it's very light, and it worked like a treat. While I was roaming and browsing at the stationers, I found this. It's a plastic light, and it's a plastic almost transparency, but it's frosted and it diffuses light incredibly well. So I took a piece of it and put it to good use. So stick with me and we'll go through it now. So we're going to cut the two lengths of the 32 and the 25 conduit to a length of your choosing, half the length of the height you want, the maximum height you would like. So I've made that 1.6 meters, which means 2 halves of 800. So I've already gone and pre-marked these, and I'm going to cut them out now to get the right length. You need to obviously make sure that when you cut this as straight as possible. So I'm going to quickly go through that on the mark I've made here. When you're cutting with a saw, especially if you have a look at the blade itself, you'll feel that the one way it doesn't catch your fingers, and the other way it does catch your fingers, which should be in the motion where you're pushing forward, because you can put most of the pressure on it that way. Then, and that's how you set up the saw itself. I'm using a hacksaw, which is actually mostly used for metal, but in this case it works perfectly on this. And then when you do your stroke, you've got to let the saw do the cutting. In other words, you've got to, when you pull back against it like this, to get it on the mark you want, when you pull it back, but you're not putting a lot of pressure. When you push forward, you put a bit more pressure. But you're not putting a lot of pressure, just a bit more pressure. You let the saw do the work. Then you should get a clean and straight cut. That's the first of the 800s, and I'm going to carry on with it because, like I said, I've already pre-marked it. So again, I use my thumb, I place it there like that, I put and I just go very softly. Very short strokes, very softly, until I get a nice groove in it. Then I start doing longer strokes. And another cut. The piece is going to go in the scrap bin. I'll probably end up using it for some other project. And they're my two 800s. And I have the same with this. And I seem to have lost the mark. People are always tempted to do these short strokes like this, but you have to understand that if you use the whole saw blade, like doing multiple of those little saw blades, saw movements, and it's also less tiring. Another piece of scrap. So we've done our cut of our 4 pieces. So we can just take a little bit of sandpaper and clean up the end of these so there's no sharp edges on it. And we have some clean ends to work with. I'm going to go ahead and clean up the other ones. You don't need to see that. So I've cut 4 of these. Actually, I've cut 8 of them because I'm making 2 as legs for the bottom of the tripod. I've got this 4-way electrical connector which I'm going to use to put them into like this. And that will give us the base of the light. We're also going to need to connect the upright for the light stand over here. And I'm going to use this one. I've chosen this one because there's a couple of types like it. You get these 2. I just chose these ones because this one, the thread looked a bit short. I'm sure it'll work. I'm just being overcautious. This one has a much larger area for the pole to go into, and it seems to have a longer threaded area to give me more support. So now we're just going to drill a hole in here and mount this over there, which will give us our upright pole. So to drill that hole over there, it's not going to be a normal drill bit because it's going to have to be thirty-one millimeters, and I can put this in inches, or 1.2235 inches. Sorry, metric, not inches, but if you need inches, that is 31 millimeters. I need to see if I have something that I can drill a 31 millimeter hole with. Fortunately, I do have a hole saw that will do the trick. So before we start drilling, we need to find the center of this, and the easiest way to do that would be to, they've provided these here as a reasonable guide, these little reinforcing strips which look like they would be in the middle. So I'm just going to use those as a guide to find the center by going diagonally across, and that'll get me as close to the center as possible. So the reason I want to drill this side is so that if I need to access any of the wiring underneath here later, I can just take the 2 screws in this cover off and be able to do anything I need to do. So I'd like to drill from this side without having to take the whole thing apart. So let's drill that. I'm going to have to clamp this, so let me clamp it again. So there we've got it clamped. I'll take my trusty Ryobi cordless drill. And now we should be ready. You'll see there's a little drill bit there. We're just going to line that up with the middle there, best we can. And going to go slowly. Oops, it's in hammer mode. Take it out of hammer mode. And we're just gonna, there we go. And there we have our hole. Unclamp it here quickly. That will fit through quite nicely. Then this will fit like that and giving us the top part. So that is the top part of our light. Like I said, I was hoping to make this as adjustable as possible, because you know what you can always do with a little change in height with the lights and stuff like that. So I've got this. This is just a joiner that you use to join the 32mm together, which I'm going to put on there. And this is the 25 I'm going to put inside. And for this, I've just got a little O-ring, which we can stretch over this one, which you can use by just rolling it up and down that to make the adjustment. Let me slide that back in there, let's see if it works. So there, we have it in there. If you want to make it a bit longer, just roll the O-ring down a bit, and there it is there. It's not going to hold too much, but like I said, this O-ring might be a little bit too thin, so I might get a slightly larger one, but it's doing the trick for now. So that is the adjustable part of it. So we'll put that in there, just give it a quick dry run. There we have it. It's pretty stable. I'm going to get elbows and I'm going to put them on the end of the legs to make it a bit better, and obviously glue it all together. This will give you an adjustable light stand at a fraction of the cost. So I've fired up the glue gun. And I just want to sort out how I'm actually going to fit the light bulb to it. So I've got a bayonet globe and I've bought this fitting, which fits together like that. And the wire is going to go through there, and this will obviously fasten it to the box of the light box, or the soft box. So those two we don't really need right now, but I need some way of connecting that to there so I can fit the soft box on the front here. So I fired up the glue gun because I think that's the only real way we're going to be able to get that perfectly in there, and it should make a difference. In fact, I'm going to stop this and I want to get my heat gun, because apparently that will make this whole process a lot better, because the weather's a bit chilly at the moment. Okay, so I now have my heat gun. So just to make everything work better, I'm just going to warm these two pieces up a bit, just a bit, just so that when everything goes together, they're a bit warmer and a bit more pliable, and the glue will take them on a bit better. You don't want to melt them or anything, you just want to get them up to a higher ambient temperature. then they'll be more ready to accept the glue. So I'm being quite generous with the glue here. And I will be here too as well. Now you see how that thing has fitted actually inside that, and it will make a much better bond at the end of the day as soon as it cools down a bit. And we're going to let that cool down a bit, and that should give us our light arrangement. And there we have it. Fit it nicely together, nice snug, very firm fit. A little bit of leftover glue that we can just pick off. So probably use a knife to do it. It's probably not the best to use your fingers. And that's going to be where the light goes in. So another part of the fitting you can now screw in there. The wire will run through there. And that will fit inside the box. The soft box that is. And that will tighten down and hold it in place. So I went down to the stationers and I picked up this black, almost like a cardboard. I don't know what the name is, but it's quite rigid. And I've cut it out in these shapes here. So I've used 40 centimeters here and 15 centimeters at the back. Then I've taken some foil and some Pritt glue or some glue stick, and I've glued the foil on and cut it out. And I've left these tabs here so that we can glue it together. And that is what I'm going to do. So I've got the glue gun warmed up here. The box is now complete. I added these little tabs on the front so that we could attach the diffuser to the front of it. I've got paper clips there at the moment, but I do plan to use bulldog clips. I've got them on both sides and I have them at the bottom. So inside you can see the globe there, where it all fits in. Around the back here, this back piece was just a 15 by 15 square, and then I basically grew it by another 15 millimeters so that I could put tabs on it and then glue it on with a hot glue gun. Made a hole in the middle and pushed that through and put the bolt on the other side. Turned out very well. Okay, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the subscribe button. Every little bit helps. Take care and stay safe.